data centers to boost renewable energy utilization and optimization in Kenya. Congratulations. We'll have you stand for a ceremonial photo, if you would, Excellencies. Thank you. Congratulations to Marathon Digital Holdings and the Republic of Kenya on this deal that will boost renewable energy utilization and optimization in Kenya. We look forward to the fruitful outcomes of your collaboration. Thank you very much. We'll have our next signing ceremony, I believe, will also involve the Honorable Prime Cabinet Secretary. We're very pleased to begin the process of our next signing ceremony. This partnership is a partnership between Siemens Healthineers and RVL Healthcare of Kenya. Please welcome, who are seated at the table, Mr. Vivek Kanade, Managing Director for Middle East and Africa for Siemens Healthineers, and Mr. Leela Parid-Mukala, Founder and CEO of Red Hill Cancer Center, who are joined today by honorable witnesses as they cement an agreement that will help establish a center of excellence for cancer care in Kenya, intending to open in 2025 and to serve patients in Kenya and across East Africa. Thank you. We join the President and the Ambassador in congratulating you on the joint endeavors that you have undertaken. We will now proceed to our next deal signing. Welcome. Welcome. At this time, we will proceed with the MOU signing that will take place between Acorn Holdings Limited, the U.S. International Development Finance Corporation, and partners. We are pleased to welcome to the stage Mr. Edward Kirathi, CEO of Acorn Holdings, and Mr. Scott Nathan, CEO of the U.S. International Development Finance Corporation. As these gentlemen are joined by their respective witnesses, allow me to share that this agreement will now allow Acorn to develop 35 new projects in Kenya, offering an additional 48,000 student beds as the largest portfolio of affordable green housing in Africa. We understand that Standard Bank will also finance some aspects of the project, and they are joining as honorable witnesses for this occasion. Perfect. Congratulations on this partnership. We look forward to the fruitful outcomes of your collaboration. Congratulations again. That's quite an achievement. And finally, last but not least, is an MOU signing that I'm pleased to welcome to the stage that will take place between Microsoft in collaboration with G42 and the Government of Kenya. As my colleagues prepare the stage for this signing, allow me to tell you that this three-party signing between Microsoft, G42, and the Government of Kenya has already made quite a bit of news, and so I'm pleased to welcome to the stage Mr. Brad Smith, Vice Chair and CEO of Microsoft, Vice Chair and President of Microsoft. We're joined as well by His Excellency Dr. Musalia Mudavadi, Prime Cabinet Secretary and Secretary for Foreign and Diaspora Affairs, and their respective witnesses to finalize a series of signing agreements. We're joined as well by the CEO of G42, Mr. Peng Zhao. This letter of intent of a $1 billion investment will be led by G42 This investment will be led by G42 to build a state-of-the-art green data center in Okaria, Kenya. Congratulations on this $1 billion letter of intent. Wonderful. Let's give that another round of applause. With this last signature, we conclude the MOU and deal signing ceremony. We celebrate the partnerships formed today and the bright future ahead, and we thank His Excellency for being a witness to the power of what this partnership can bring, and Ambassador Whitman for being a critical partner in making this possible. Thank you very much.
In Kenya, beauty is everywhere. Etched in our golden sunsets, gently kissing the horizon. Dancing along our beaches and thriving in the heart of our vibrant cultures. Welcome to magical Kenya. It takes a lot to protect this paradise. This ecosystem is a treasure, irreplaceable and fragile. The heartbeat of our land is sustained by those who believe in its enduring magic.
It is time for humanity to step up and live up to its most basic mandate, to protect life on Earth, the integrity of our planet's vital systems, and make the world more, not less, livable.
In the face of the world's biodiversity crisis, Kenya leads the way. We harness the power of the sun, the wind, water, and the earth itself to guide us towards a sustainable future.
Under the United Nations Climate Convention, we have committed to restore and conserve all forests and to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. The objective is to grow 5 billion trees in the next 5 years and an additional 10 billion trees by 2032.
Kenya is unwavering in its pursuit of conservation and has welcomed the use of electric vehicles in the parks. We invest in the very essence of our nation. For over a century, we have safeguarded Kenya's rich biodiversity. We have set aside national parks, national reserves, 53 sanctuaries, and 100...
What a wonderful morning this has been. Hamjambo. Habari ya asubuhi. Sawa sawa, sawa sawa. Ninatoka Amerika lakini moyo wangu ni katika Kenya. So what a wonderful morning this has been of a fantastic visit. These signings are just the next step in an important journey together between the United States and Kenya. To the leadership of the Chamber, to Suzanne Clark and the American Chamber, Maxwell Okolo, to our incredible and talented Ambassador Meg Whitman, to our Secretary of Commerce, Gina Raimondo, you have laid a wonderful foundation for a successful day here. And I was thrilled to see my dear friend Strive Masiwa, an accomplished and talented business leader, also a part of this morning's developments. Kenya is a very special place for me because 40 years ago, I was a student at the University of Nairobi. And I just last weekend had a reunion of this group of students as we reflected on the impact Kenya had on each of our lives. But there is a positive trajectory today that is in large part because of the leadership of President Ruto. There is, as we all know, a debate in the world about what is the path forward. What is the path for development, for hope, and for opportunity? And on the continent of this century, the continent of Africa, Kenya is showing a path that I embrace and celebrate, a path that is rooted in democracy, in transparency, in the rule of law, and the free enterprise system. And because of President Ruto and President Ruto's energy, entrepreneurship, and vision, he is demonstrating what that looks like. I just mentioned to the President, umefanya kazi ngumu. He has made very tough choices, and he is in the midst of some difficult leadership moments. And we in the United States need to recognize that and need to work with him. You just saw in that video powerful and important choices around conservation and around the preservation of the incredible wildlife and open spaces of Kenya, partnered with putting human development at the center. Many here know that Kenya has incredible renewable energy resources, as was just announced, a data center powered completely by geothermal energy. And President Ruto has put climate at the center of economic development issues in Kenya. We in the Congress have our part to play in making the dream of the Silicon Savannah and the reality of manufacturing and development for export come true. First, we must reauthorize the African Growth and Opportunity Act, or AGOA. And when I was last in Kenya with a delegation, we visited a number of manufacturing facilities, one that is specifically now in Kenya employing thousands because the apparel industry there has the opportunity to diversify away from China and from other East Asian manufacturing hubs and to the opportunities provided in the American market. I have a bipartisan bill to extend AGOA. We must do it soon to provide certainty for all who would seek to increase their investment in East Africa. Last, we must do more for our trade partnership. We must advance the U.S.-Kenya STIP negotiations, which are a promising start, and move forward with a free trade agreement. That would be the foundation on which we could build the next chapter of U.S.-Kenyan partnership. And I look forward to working with President Ruto, with President Obama and Vice President Harris and Secretary Raimondo in delivering on that vision. Asante sana. Thank you so much for today's work together.
Introducing the Honorable Rebecca Miano, Cabinet Secretary of the Ministry of Investments, Trade and Industry at the Republic of Kenya.
Thank you. Thank you very much. My role today is to invite the President of the Republic of Kenya. But before I say that, before I do that, I'll say one or two things. That this state visit affirms a mutual commitment to deepening commercial and investment ties between the United States of America and Kenya. We will ensure robust participation from the private sector. My ministry is committed to promote a strong business enabling environment and to facilitate trade and investment opportunities in Kenya, focused on key priority sectors, including agriculture, infrastructure, digital economy, and others. Under the Strategic Trade and Investment Partnership, we are negotiating high standard commitments in areas that will support and promote trade, including the MSMEs, anti-corruption, labor, environment, among others. I have assured Mr. President that what is now required is the discipline of execution and to maintain momentum to bring to fruition what has been discussed and agreed during this state visit. I have assured the President that we will focus on implementing each and every outcome of this visit. We will keep a scorecard. We will create a cadence of accountability, and we will consistently report on the progress that we are making. And now, it is my pleasure and my honor to present the 5th President of the Republic of Kenya, who is an ardent supporter of business, trade, and investments. Mr. President.
Please join us in welcoming His Excellency Dr. William S. Ruto, President of the Republic of Kenya.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Gina Raimondo, U.S. Secretary for Commerce, Madam Suzanne Clark, President and CEO of the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, business leaders and executive of U.S. corporates, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. First, on behalf of my delegation, I sincerely thank Madam Suzanne Clark, together with her team, for the excellent work they have put into the preparation of this breakfast meeting. I am delighted to have this opportunity to share with you various opportunities to leverage the strong, enduring, and dynamic Kenya-US relations and further enhance investment and trade relations and partnerships between our business communities. This gathering comes just a month after the AMCHAN Summit 2024 in Nairobi. At that summit, U.S. business leaders and entrepreneurs, many of them I see here, had a platform to connect and interact with their counterparts from Kenya and the broader Eastern Africa region. This event gives us yet another chance to reflect on the outcomes of the Nairobi AmCham Summit and deliberate on the ways by which we can inject momentum into the bilateral trade and investment agenda and catalyze synergies between Kenya and the U.S. business communities. At the last month's AmCham Summit in Nairobi, 11 government-to-government and government-to-business deals were announced, while additional agreements were unveiled earlier in the week during my visit here in Atlanta. Today, I have witnessed the signing of yet another 5 deals at this event, leaving no doubt regarding the direction of our common endeavor and the shape of the future we are building together. Ladies and gentlemen, I will take a few minutes to outline the reasons for Kenya's strong economic interest in promising collaborations and partnerships in trade and investment between Kenya and U.S. businesses. The aim of my address this morning is to affirm your confidence in entering or expanding your operations in our market and to ask and answer the question, what can we do for you and what can we do together? Our commitment to eradicating unemployment, poverty, hunger, disease, and inequality through the bottom-up economic transformation agenda gives us the opportunity to focus on effective strategies to deliver rapid and inclusive growth that is anchored on significantly enhanced productivity of millions of our citizens. To achieve this, we undertake and promote strategic investments in priority value chains within the following sectors, which are the strategic pillars of our plan: universal health care, food security, agro-processing, affordable housing, and you saw us sign one agreement here, micro, small, and medium enterprises, and of course, the big space around digital infrastructure. Investments to enhance the productivity of agro-value chains, accelerate the growth of export manufacturing and surplus food production, thereby creating employment opportunities in the agriculture sector and food sector. Apparels, as was mentioned by my good friend Senator Kuhn here, is a big space for us, and we have major capabilities in that space, and we have enhanced our tax incentives to facilitate more companies to set up camp and expand our access to the market to the U.S. Likewise, investments in the universal health coverage strategy include vaccine and pharmaceutical manufacturing, as well as the production of medical commodities and biomedical supplies. This enhances our capacity to provide high-quality health services to citizens, promote self-sufficiency, as we were, rudely told by COVID-19, exports to meet regional demand, and create significant employment opportunities. Specifically, we now have in Kenya a special economic zone in Thika that will focus on pharmaceutical manufacturing. And I invite companies who want to explore opportunities in that space. Aside from us giving incentives on buying from locally manufactured products, you have the benefit of access to the East African market of 300 million people, and by extension, using the Africa Continental Free Trade Area, access to 1.4 billion people. If you're looking for market, if you're looking for opportunity, there you are. Further, our commitment to enhance our technology ecosystem to attract big tech companies and promote the incubation and scaling up of startups has positioned Kenya's Silicon Savannah as Africa's premier ICT and digital innovation destination. our digital superhighway program, which involves laying an extra 100,000 kilometers of last-mile fiber optic infrastructure and establishing digital hubs nationwide, aims to create a digital ecosystem to promote the uptake of digital services and digital products. Additionally, leveraging on our huge green energy potential that enables Kenya to quickly become a global leader in the establishment of world-class green data infrastructure. You've seen this morning, we've just signed the deal which we have just witnessed between Microsoft, EcoCloud, and UAE G42 to build a 1 gigawatt data center using US technology, UAE capabilities, and Kenya's geothermal resources, demonstrating that the world is paying attention and investors like what they see in Kenya. Kenya's largest BPO company, CCI Global, has doubled its workforce, adding 4,000 jobs to serve American clients, highlighting the importance of ICT sector in our partnership. Just 2 weeks ago, I was opening one of their largest facilities that is deploying technology to serve companies, AT&T, JetBlue, and other companies here in the US. Additionally, Kenya leads in e-mobility. Yesterday, we had a conversation about how we are hosting over 30 companies with Ampersand and Rivian, choosing Kenya to make great things happen around e-mobility. And we are pushing the horizon. The Kenya government, in the next policy framework, will be eliminating all taxes for companies that will locally manufacture the first 100,000 two-wheelers and four-wheelers in Kenya to provide market. And government of Kenya will be buying the first 5,000 units of e-enabled motor vehicles to facilitate government transportation and to inspire companies that want to invest in that space. Our affordable housing program to construct 200,000 units annually over the next 5 years is a clear investment opportunity which also will not just create jobs, but it also creates opportunities for companies that can deploy modern technology in building houses affordably, sustainably, and cost-effectively. Kenya is committed to attracting a lot of foreign direct investment by creating a stable, transparent, and predictable business environment, continuously enhancing institutional frameworks, regulatory regimes, and providing incentives across the board. Our geostrategic position makes us the gateway to East and Central Africa, as well as the entire African continent. And Nairobi is a rational and strategic choice for global multinational companies, international organizations, and NGOs seeking to establish or expand their footprint in Africa. Kenya, thank you very much. You may want to know that Kenya hosts the only UN agency and UN headquarters in the global south. And Kenya is globally renowned for a well-educated, and we are proud of them, highly skilled and enterprising population, including young men and women, whose motivation reflect the entrepreneurial spirit of our nation. We spend the highest budget on education, training, and skilling. And we do not consider it as spending, we consider it an investment because we have seen the returns from our huge, very well-trained, motivated, creative, innovative human capital. Through intensive and consistent investment in modern, efficient infrastructure to improve transport, communication, and energy connectivity, Kenya further reinforces its unique position as a gateway to East, Central, and Southern Africa. In this connection, it is worthwhile to point out that 92% of our national grid is powered by renewable energy sources, and that we aim to have 100% clean energy grid by 2032. I know whenever I mention this, many people wonder how we've done it. And I want to tell you it only happens in Kenya. This places Kenya at the lead in manufacturing, industrialization, and production for the future, while being in harmony with nature. Recognizing that private sector plays requisite and is consistent, and the role private sector plays and is consistent and predictable operating environment, including tax policies for long-term investment so that people can decide what they want to do and looking at a greater horizon, Kenya has updated our tax policy guidelines. We are committed to continue this regime, and we have agreed that we are going to have a steady tax regime for the next 3 years. Let me also say we are doing this to meet the standard of stability and predictability that is required for any nation. So minimum 3 years, and in any event, until our tax code meets the highest standard of stability and predictability. Additionally, we have reviewed our digital services tax, aligning it with organizations or aligning it with the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, commonly known as OECD. VAT on exported services has been removed, and verified tax refunds claims will be processed within 6 months, failing which taxpayers can offset their claim against future tax liabilities without any further reference to the Kenya Revenue Authority. To accelerate, we have had a big problem with companies who tell us that our tax refunds have been delayed. So we decided that we need what the lawyers call quid pro quo. We need to do something so that this can be accomplished. So any tax refunds that are verified, they will either be paid within 6 months, or after 6 months, you net off those refunds with any tax that you're supposed to pay to government without any reference to the Kenya Revenue Authority. That way, everybody has an incentive to do the right thing. To accelerate the growth of highly innovative entrepreneurship and the incubation of the next generation of huge global brands, our national ICT policy, which required foreign companies to have a minimum 30% domestic equity. And you know, when Google came to me and told me, Mr. President, in your regulations, we are supposed to have 30% equity for us to set up camp in Kenya. Tell me which company is ready to pay 30% equity on Google. And there was no company. So we decided to remove the requirement altogether because it wasn't making sense. And today, under our new institutional posture, in terms of our reconfigured legislative and regulatory regime, over 100 foreign and local companies are thriving within our Kenya Special Economic Zone and indeed every other part of our economy. And these global brands, and they are accelerating their growth also in our export manufacturing facilities. At last year's American Chamber of Commerce Summit in Nairobi, we committed to review our special economic zones and export processing zones laws to remove impediments to entry and attract local and foreign investments in higher numbers. Our special economic zone model is catalyzing investment, manufacturing, and exports, creating jobs and national wealth. Kenya's apparel exports to the U.S., for example, reached US dollars 544 million, with brands like Calvin Klein, Levi, Lee, and Wrangler sourcing from Kenya and creating over 12,000 jobs in the past 2 years. We are fast-tracking legislative reviews to enhance the Special Economic Zone Investment Scheme by the end of this year. And I have given very firm instructions to Rebecca and her team to accelerate that endeavor. Our genuine partnership, based on shared values, has improved Kenya's business environment through open discussion with investors and the American mission in Nairobi and the government of Kenya. Forums like this, therefore, crucial opportunities for us to answer the critical question that implicitly arises whenever I meet investors, industrialists, and entrepreneurs. What can I do for you? That's the constant question. To underscore the collective determination to sustain the momentum of our progress, the trilateral business dialogue has been launched between the American Chamber of Commerce, the government of Kenya, and the United States in a mandate and is mandated to meet every quarter for the specific purpose of addressing challenges faced by investors in Kenya, and more specifically, U.S. investors in Kenya. Our readiness to participate in processes like this arises from the fact that Kenya values the over 400 U.S. companies we engaged with in the 4th American Chamber of Commerce Summit, as well as the hundreds that have chosen Kenya as the destination for their regional branches and headquarters. Our intention, therefore, is to ensure that companies like Amazon Web Services, Apple, Citigroup, Coca-Cola, and I had an opportunity to witness the investment by Coca-Cola of another $175 million in our country. Dell, Del Monte, General Electric, Google, Hello Tractor, IBM, Intel, Kentegra, MasterCard, Microsoft, Oracle, Synergy, Sun Agriculture, Victory Plum. Do I continue? All this. and I have not mentioned them in order of any priority. These are all our companies, and we have fantastic relationship with them. We want all of them to guarantee maximum value to their investors by realizing the full benefits of working from Kenya, working in Kenya, and working with Kenyans. My commitment and that of the entire government to make Kenya the best place to do business globally has already borne fruit. Kenya has been ranked the 3rd most attractive place to do business in Africa by the World Bank. I appreciate the American Chamber of Commerce in Kenya leadership and the U.S. Ambassador to Kenya, Meg Whitman. Meg Whitman is God sent. And she's done, sometimes single-handedly, with her team in Nairobi, what would ordinarily be in the realm of miracles. Her leadership in establishing and sustaining important conversations, supporting productive dialogue, and pursuing implementation through effective collaboration has been outstanding. In particular, it has been fascinating to observe Ambassador Whitman in action. She has notably She has notably introduced a culture of 9 in my administration. Last year, we addressed some of the issues I have mentioned in my statement to conclusion. It was a conspicuous list of 9. This year, she brought another list of 9 that I promise that CS Miano and her team will fully address to further strengthen the business climate. Here is a historic opportunity to unlock Kenya's vast potential through effective partnerships to increase opportunities for investment, industrialization, and trade to deliver prosperity for millions of Kenyans and investment returns for our investors for now and for generations to come. Kenya works, and we mean business. When it comes to investment, we are ready for you. Together, let's bring your vision to reality and let us build Kenya together with your companies. What we can do for you in 2024, that is my statement. Thank you very much. God bless you.
Please join us in welcoming to the stage Suzanne P. Clark, President and CEO of the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, for the presentation of the U.S. Africa Business Center's Outstanding Leaders Award.
Well, thank you so much, Mr. President. Kenya works. What can we do for you?
And we mean business.
And we mean business. It's that the Chamber works and we mean business, and what can we do for you? Thank you for those very insightful remarks. In recognition of your work to really promote and advance business-led solutions and your steadfast commitment to trade and investment initiatives to grow Kenya's economy, it is my honor to present to you the U.S. Africa Business Center's Outstanding Leaders Award. And if I can just tell the audience, President Ruto is just the 4th ever recipient of this award. We are so grateful for your leadership, and we are committed partners. Thank you, Mr. President.
Please welcome back Suzanne P. Clark, President and CEO of the U.S. Chamber of Commerce.
I'm trying to decide if I should say good morning or good afternoon. I've lost track of the time, I think. But hello. Thank you so much, everyone, for being here today. It is a historic day for the United States and for the U.S. Chamber of Commerce. As you know, we are celebrating the 60th anniversary of U.S.-Kenya diplomatic relations and marking the first state visit by an African president since 2008. I think we can all agree that 16 years is far too long, but we are hopeful that President Ruto's time in Washington will usher in a new era of regular state visits by African leaders. On top of that, today we've brought together senior government officials, business leaders, and industry partners as we observe World Trade Month and on the eve of Africa Day. What better time could there be to illustrate the importance of partnership between the United States and Kenya? What better platform to elevate the trade and investment ties between our nations and demonstrate the bright future for the U.S.-Kenya strategic relationship? To underscore that, I want to very quickly focus on three ideas we heard in the video: collaboration, opportunity, and innovation. I'll begin with collaboration, which we see in full force here today, and it's long been a priority of the U.S. Chamber's work in Kenya. The Chamber brings partners together to advance commercial cooperation between our nations, from heads of state to private sector leaders like our close friends at the AmCham Kenya. We give a voice through the U.S. Africa Business Center, which has advocated for stronger economic ties between U.S. and Africa since 2009. We provide a platform for the American business community to work directly with Kenyan leaders, from convening a presidential executive roundtable at the UN General Assembly shortly after President Ruto took office, to the 2023 U.S.-Kenya bilateral strategic dialogue. And we travel the globe, leading trade missions to Nairobi for the AmCham Business Summit, as well as the Kenya International Investment Conference to convene a dialogue on the AFC-FTA digital protocol, along with numerous delegations of private sector executives, including last month to coincide with Secretary Raimondo's successful and important visit to Kenya. Our goal through all of this collaboration is to deepen American business ties with Kenya, and the why behind that, as you all well know, is opportunity. East Africa, led by Kenya, continues to be one of the engines of growth on the continent and in the global economy. Kenya is home to one of Africa's most diversified and fastest growing economies. And with a young entrepreneurial population and talented workforce, it's increasingly a vibrant hub of economic activity. In Kenya, we see a country of limitless private sector potential if we are willing to seize it. And the U.S. Chamber is working to make that happen. 24 years ago this week, the Chamber helped lead the charge for congressional passage of the African Growth and Opportunity Act, which has been an important cornerstone of the economic partnership. Like many champions in this room today, including Senator Chris Coons, who recently introduced a bill in the Senate to this effect, we support AGOA reauthorization. And in 2020, right here in this great hall, the Kenyan government announced its intention to negotiate a free trade agreement with the United States. We immediately launched a U.S.-Kenya trade working group to exchange ideas and seek common ground on trade priorities. And we continue to support the ambition of a robust trade and investment agreement. As we heard just moments ago from President Ruto, Kenya deeply understands that their future is tied to how they trade with countries around the world. And at the Chamber, we know that when the U.S. trades and invests with other countries, we're not only supporting jobs and creating opportunities here in the United States, we're deepening important strategic partnerships and advancing free enterprise around the world. Finally, I just want to touch quickly on innovation, because it is innovation that will shape our future and how the U.S. and Kenya will tackle shared challenges. Kenya is, of course, known for its silicon savanna. It's a reflection of the country's role as a hub for innovation and of the role U.S. companies like Google and IBM and Microsoft and others have played and will play in the business ecosystem there. To foster even greater innovation, the U.S. Chamber is pleased to announce here today a green tech business mission to Kenya, which we look forward to organizing in partnership with the U.S. government. We want to showcase the promise of U.S. green technology and provide a platform for real discussion about projects, innovative solutions, and regulatory best practices. So innovation is also the topic of our next discussion. And we are fortunate to hear more about the power of public-private partnerships from three of the top decision makers on U.S.-Kenya policy. Leading our discussion is a former CEO putting decades of private sector experience to work for business as our envoy in Nairobi, U.S. Ambassador to Kenya, Meg Whitman. And our two featured guests are leaders who have both worked hard to support the tech ecosystem in Africa. Vice President Kamala Harris has spearheaded public-private partnerships at home and abroad. She traveled to Africa last year for a 3-country tour, putting a spotlight on opportunities to invest in African innovation and galvanizing new initiatives to promote digital inclusion on the continent. And joining her, of course, is our very special guest of honor, President William Ruto of Kenya, a successful businessman in his own right who made digital transformation a signature initiative of his administration. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in giving President Ruto, Vice President Harris, and Ambassador Whitman a warm welcome. Thank you. Thank you.
Well, good morning, almost good afternoon, and thank you both for joining us. It's really a privilege for the U.S. Chamber of Commerce and I think our audience. So, Madam Vice President, I'll start with you, if you don't mind. So, you have been a leader on Africa policy in the Biden-Harris administration, and you visited, Suzanne mentioned Ghana, Tanzania, and Zambia last year. We missed you in Kenya.
I'll get there, I promise. I will get there.
And you focus specifically on investing in innovation and investing in young people and investing in women.
Yes.
So why did you take that approach, and what are your lasting impressions from the trip? What did you learn that was particularly interesting?
Well, thank you, Madam Ambassador, and Mr. President, it is good to be with you on this stage. I strongly believe that we are at a moment where we should revisit and upgrade and update the narrative of the relationship between the United States and the continent of Africa. When you think about the continent, the median age is 19 years old. 19. It is predicted that by 2050, 1 in 4 people occupying space on Mother Earth will be on the continent of Africa. So when I think of it just from that perspective, many could rightly argue that the future is on the continent of Africa. Yes. I also think, and I'll speak very candidly here, that we have to revisit and revise the narrative around the relationship in a way that appreciates that ours, the role of the United States, should not be one of benevolence, but of thinking about the relationship in the context of partnership. So it is not about and simply about aid, but about investment. And understanding the capacity that exists and has been proven to be strong on the continent, and therefore is worthwhile in terms of an investment, understanding it will yield a great return on investment. And when I think, Mr. President, in particular about your leadership in Kenya, I think this is empirical evidence of the need, of the imperative of the United States through our government and private sector partnering with Kenyans, with the Kenyan government, in a way that recognizes the extraordinary opportunity for continued investment writ large in innovation. Thinking about what we must do as a global community around addressing crises like the climate crisis. What we can do through those investments that makes clear and real what we know to be the growth, that broad-based economic growth that occurs wherever and everywhere when you invest in women. And then doing that work through a partnership that also appreciates it is good for American business to be invested in relationships that contribute to global stability. Global stability, of course, results also in global economic stability. And so for all of these reasons, I simply believe it is the right thing to do, not to mention the intertwined history between the continent and our country. But also, if we are going to be at all forward-thinking, it is an imperative. Frankly, as Vice President, I say this as a devout public servant. Sadly, often our strategy around foreign policy is based on the crisis of the moment. And part of how I think about the future and the imperative of the relationship with African nations is based on a vision that public policy be formed and implemented now based on a vision for the next 10, 20, and 50 years. And again, that all brings me back to the continent of Africa and Kenya as an example of a vibrant partnership.
Great, thank you very much. The doing things before you have a crisis is a lot easier
How about that?
than waiting until afterwards.
Yes.
Mr. President, you have been a tremendous champion for tech and innovation in Kenya and its ability to spur economic development and promote opportunity. So, and also, by the way, advancing gender equality and inclusion. So just love to hear your point of view, maybe your evolving point of view on the power of technology and what it can do for Kenya. And for those of you who don't know, Kenya was the largest destination for startup capital on the continent in 2023, ahead of Nigeria, ahead of South Africa, and ahead of Egypt, which is quite a remarkable achievement.
Thank you very much, and thank you very much, Vice President Kamala Harris, for finding time to engage with us in this very important American Chamber of Commerce Kenya meeting. Speaking about technology and speaking about opportunities in the technology space, three things come to my mind. Technology is the facility, is the instrument that we can use to leapfrog Africa from where we are to the next, to catch up, if I may, with the rest of the world. We have the youngest population. That young population is tech hungry. Yeah. That young population, we have the opportunity to shape it in the direction in which we think it should. And that is why a country like Kenya, we are investing 30% of our budget in education, training, knowledge, skills. We are investing $5 billion every year. And I said earlier, it's money we believe is an investment, because if there is a single most important asset that we have is our human capital. And as my sister Kamala said, we are looking at the continent that will have a quarter of the world's population by 2050. 40% of the world's workforce will be from the African continent. Therefore, it is not only about labor, and therefore you need the correct quality of labor. It is also about market. Yeah. The biggest market ever will exist in the African continent. And therefore, technology is the biggest enabler, the biggest multiplier of what can be done. And I see it every day. For example, M-Pesa took Kenya from
a banking ratio of, I think, about 20% and tripled it. You know, just using technology. Many more Kenyans, including my mother who has not been to school, she operates M-Pesa.
Yeah.
She knows how to do it,
Right.
you know. So that's what happens to many people in Kenya. So we look at technology as an enabler and as a mechanism through which we can use the biggest resource we have in our young people, and we can also use it to better deliver agriculture, health, education, tax collection, government services. In fact, for Kenya, we are moving all government services. When I came into office, we had 300 government services. We've now moved 17,000 government services on the digital platform, because that is where the future is. That's how we can be able to efficiently deliver government services, cost effectively deliver government services, accountably deliver government services. So accountability, efficiency, efficacy, the technology enables us to do all that much more efficiently. Therefore, Madam Kamala Harris, you're focused in the right direction on technology, digital space, young people, women. I think that space is the space that will give us the greatest output as we go into the future. And it is, for example, the reason, just before you came in, we have signed in to $1 billion investment using American technology from Microsoft, capabilities from G42, capital resources from G42, and renewable energy from Kenya, because Kenya has the extra asset of having tech-savvy human capital. G42 will tell you, and Microsoft, and I'm sure they are in this meeting, Microsoft will tell you some of their best human capital come from Kenya.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. That's right.
Madam Vice President, you might be interested to know that Kenya is the home to the only semiconductor technology on the continent, and 70% of their engineers are women.
Ah,
So, pretty remarkable.
fantastic.
So, I know how hard you've been working on the digital inclusion project, and I think today you're going to talk a little bit about the progress that
Yes.
you've made, and you know, building on the trip that you made to Africa. So maybe you can bring us up to speed on what you've accomplished and how you're feeling about the whole program.
I will, but first I just must thank you, Meg Whitman, for taking up the position of being ambassador. I've known the ambassador for a long time, I say with a bit of bravado as a proud Californian, and your work and your groundbreaking work in technology is extraordinary, and this is just the perfect moment that you would step up and serve in this capacity, and I thank you for that. Thank you, thank you. So digital inclusion was at the heart of the idea for this initiative that is focused on the continent. And I want to thank a few people who I know are here. Brad Smith is here, Michael Meback is here. It was companies like Microsoft, MasterCard, foundations. Melinda French Gates was one of the earliest to contribute as much as $10 million for the women in digital inclusion focused on women, the Ford Foundation. And so essentially, this is how it all happened, is a simplified version. I got on the phone and I called a bunch of people. And I called them to say, I know that you have some interest based on the work that you've done before. Can we collaborate in a focused way that develops synergy around a public-private partnership? And the foundation for the work being digital inclusion, understanding that all business at this point is tech business. And any business, any economy that is going to grow, much less be sustainable between now and the future, must integrate and adapt and adopt technology. in an institutional way. And this includes, as you described, Mr. President, your mother. It includes that it must be the people, not just the governments and the corporations, that understand how the technology works. Another piece of the focus was something I've long believed, many of us do. If we are focused on strengthening economies, one of the smartest ways to do that is to invest in women. The reality is that when you improve the economic condition, of women, you improve the economic condition of families, communities, and all of society benefits. So a lot of the work then, in terms of the initial design, was to think of it that way. It was also to layer upon the initiative, what are the current crises that we must address in a way that we see opportunity for economic growth, the climate crisis being an obvious one. The climate crisis having a direct impact on agricultural economies. And knowing then that we are developing the most extraordinary smart technology to help farmers. And when they have access to technology, when they are able to get online, the services that are available will help them with crop management, will help them determine what crop they should plant this season based on satellite technology, which can predict the weather for that period of time, so they are not bound by tradition. Technology which helps farmers determine whether there is too much water in drought conditions that are being used on a specific plant, too much fertilizer, which we know has an impact on the climate. All of this is facilitated, these traditions, these traditional ways of either growing or not growing economies can be facilitated, like you said, Mr. President, when we look at the issue of digital inclusion. So we developed this partnership that is a public-private partnership. I know that Michael and Brad talked earlier about what we are doing specifically, but the vision is that we can, and U.S. businesses in particular, can partner with our allies in a way that invests in the infrastructure that allows these economies to thrive. I will also say I'm a big believer in public-private partnerships for two main reasons. One, we as government, we have the scale. We have the ability to scale. But truly, the private sector has the depth of skill and expertise often. That when you combine it with the scale capacity of government, can have a profound impact on large populations of people. The second point I will make, especially as Vice President, is that through these public-private partnerships, I can speak then with our allies or potential partners around the globe. I'm doing this work, for example, in the northern part of Central America. And I can then sit down with world leaders and explain to them that private investment, U.S. investment, will be dependent and reliant on in rule of law, on democracy, on an adherence and respect for human rights. And understand then in that way the power of public-private partnerships, especially when we are talking about these relationships around the globe. Understanding that increasingly U.S. business is interdependent with our allies and nations around the world, and these partnerships then make a lot of sense.
Let me follow that up quickly, and we have just a few more minutes. But, Mr. President, tell us a little bit about how you think about these partnerships, and how you think about American, since we're here in America, how you think about the American companies and how they're helping you to build out this ecosystem.
Vice President Kamala Harris has said a very profound thing about relationships, building the correct relationship. We need to recalibrate, our engagement. Let me start with where we were at the Africa Climate Summit last year. At the Africa Climate Summit last year, we pushed to change the narrative around Africa. For a long time, it was about blame game, who caused this, why this has happened. We decided we cannot continue to be in the victim corner. let's get ourselves and project a new narrative. Kenya and Africa can be part of the solution. You know? And for a moment, it looked strange because people were wondering, we thought we were victims of climate change. We thought we didn't cause it. Africa caused only 4%. How can we be part of the solution? We're saying we have the largest resources of renewable energy. Mm-hmm. We have the youngest population. We have 60% of the world's arable land, which we can use smart agriculture. We have the natural carbon sinks. We have the largest minerals that are even necessary for energy transition. Why is a rich continent in a corner looking weak and defeated and a victim? So we decided to change the narrative. And for the first time, we had a different conversation. Mm-hmm. We are discussing, since we have tremendous potential, how do we move this to opportunity and to investment? Yeah. That is the conversation. So that's point number one. And we must have it both ways. We have some work to do on our side. Our partners like the US have some work to do. Aid will not get us anywhere. Extracting raw materials from Africa will not get us anywhere. So it's balanced. We must stop the extraction, but we must also think outside aid. And the place to think is about investment. And when we are thinking investment, you must think about how to bring both public and private investment. And that is why private-public engagement is ultimate. That's right. It is necessary. That's right. I'll give you examples. We have the most modern expressway in Nairobi. It wasn't built using government money. Mm-hmm. It was built using private sector money in a PPP framework. Mm-hmm. It's working. I am now doing a PPP framework to transmit for energy transmission. We're doing the first 5 transmission lines in Kenya. Why should government invest money in a transmission line when we can only pay a willing charge for somebody in the private sector who can invest their money? We're looking at how we can also do it with the airport, how we can do it with the ports, how we can do it with the rest. So that way, we can bring huge investment money into our economies without necessarily contracting debt or looking for aid. Let me give a perfect example today here. We just signed an investment of $1 billion. You know, it would take me ages to get $1 billion from any government, including the American government.
It would take us that long too.
You know, it will take me ages, but the private sector can do it. They will bring the $1 billion because it makes business sense to them. That's right. You know, they are investing, they will make money. We will use our geothermal, we will employ our young people, they will pay taxes, everybody will win, they will make profits. So it is win-win. So we must also, as governments, as Africa, we must make ourselves investment ready. Mm-hmm. So that by eliminating barriers, eliminating roadblocks, making it easy for those who want to invest in our corner to do so. And that is why, one more thing, that is why we are having an engagement to make sure that Africa is not unfairly profiled as a risky continent, and thereby making investors, you know? And it is the reason why I was having a very robust engagement with President Biden, and I must thank him profusely because he agreed with me that we need a reform of the international financial architecture so that we make it fairer, so that all countries, all continents can access finances without unnecessary profiling and without making them pay more than they should. So, believe you me, I think we are having the right conversation. I think we are having the right conversation. And conversation around having a level playing field so that both public and especially the private sector can do what they do best, and government can facilitate and do what we can do best.
Well, thank you very much. It is my responsibility. It's my responsibility to get Madam Vice President to her lunch that she is hosting. But I want to commend your leadership on this subject. Thank you for what you do for Africa. And if you want to just say one last word, we really, a round of applause for the Vice President. She's done a remarkable job.
Thank you. I will emphasize the point that President Ruto made. The capacity that we have in public-private partnership is being illustrated around our focus on the continent of Africa. And let it be an example as we think about future-forward policy. That is where the future is. We in government don't have not only necessarily the depth of this skill, but we cannot pull together the billions of dollars, to your point, that we can do with these kinds of partnerships that will have exponential and immediate impact. And I'll just close with this. President Ruto, I think that your trip and your visit, this state visit, is, history will show, an inflection point in how we are revising and upgrading the narrative of the relationship between the United States and the continent of Africa, and I thank you for that. Thank you.
Thank you very much.